History is biased. Hitler died in the bunker as the world closed in on him for his crimes. But Leopold II lived in luxury until his last breath, and after his death, statues of him were erected. When Adolf Hitler's name is spoken, the world remembers the horrors of the Holocaust. But when the name Leopold II is mentioned, it fades into the shadows. Why? Because Hitler's victims were white and Leopold's victims were black. Up to 10 million lives were lost under Leopold's reign in the Congo, yet his story is often forgotten. This is not a mistake, it is an erasure. History chooses what pain matters, and too often, it forgets the suffering of those without a voice. What if I told you that the man who killed more people than Hitler is largely unknown? You probably don't know him as much as you know Hitler. A king who built his empire on blood and cruelty, yet remained a shadow in the bad books of history. This is the story of Leopold II, the man who killed more people than Adolf Hitler. Born in 1835, Leopold II was a king like no other. He wasn't just the ruler of Belgium, he was the sole owner of an entire country, a personal empire in the heart of Africa. He created the Congo Free State, a land of unimaginable riches, but at a devastating cost. Under his reign, up to 10 million Congolese people were slaughtered, starved, or worked to death to fuel his greed. And for over 2 decades, the world turned a blind eye. At the time, Congo was an empire built on deception, cruelty, and human suffering. While Europe basked in the glow of so-called civilization in Africa, one man was writing the rules of exploitation. He disguised his conquest as acts of charity, and the world fell for it, or at least chose to ignore it. But behind the masks of philanthropy, an unimaginable nightmare was unfolding in the Congo. The story of Leopold II is not just the story of a king. It is about the dark legacy that still haunts the Congo today. It is about the forgotten victims of one of the deadliest genocide the world has ever seen. And it is time we finally remember.
The violence has already displaced some 400,000 people in the region since the beginning of the year. Some have been forced out of their homes more than once.
We fled the war, gunshots and bombs, and now we are here. We don't know where to flee to. We've no shelter.
Leopold II became Belgium's king in 1865, but his true ambitions were not for his homeland. First, he tried to buy the Philippines, a colony of Spain, but the Spanish refused to sell. While European powers were rushing to claim colonies, Leopold saw an opportunity in Congo, an opportunity that would bring him unimaginable wealth. He sold the world on the idea of civilizing Africa, promising to bring light to the darkness. He portrayed himself as a philanthropist, claiming to bring education, health, and civilization to the Congo. But his true intention was far darker. Leopold presented the Congo as a noble cause, and he formed the International African Association. He convinced the world leaders that the Congolese needed his guidance and that their salvation rested in his hands. He secured their approval, and in 1885, the Congo Free State was born. Leopold's rule in the Congo was nothing short of horror. The Congolese were forced into brutal labor, harvesting rubber under horrific conditions. If they didn't meet their quotas, they were punished, and severed hands were presented as trophies to remind the people of the price of defiance. And the reason why Leopold's private army chopped off hands was so that bullets wouldn't be wasted. Women and children were held hostage to ensure compliance. Anyone who dared resist was met with violent retribution. The Congo became a massive plantation built on forced labor and fear. Men, women, and children were enslaved, tortured, and killed for failing to meet robber quotas. Entire villages were wiped out in the pursuit of profit. His rule was so cruel that other European leaders who were violently exploiting Africa condemned it. Up to 10 million lives were lost in this nightmare. A genocide that took place under the watch of the international community, all while Leopold was hailed as a benevolent ruler. Imagine if the West approved Hitler's killing of the Jews and hailed him while doing it. The atrocities were so gruesome that it was described by George Washington Williams, an African-American journalist, as the most monstrous system of slavery. As the death toll climbed, Leopold's hold on the Congo began to weaken. In 1904, reports of the horrors leaked to the public, leading to an international outcry. Edmond Dean Morel, a British journalist, observed that ships leaving the Congo were filled with ivory and rubber. But returning ships carried no trade goods, only weapons and chains. Journalists, activists, and missionaries risked their lives to expose the truth. But the question remains, why did it take so long for the world to act? This is because of the political and economical interests of the time. Leopold has carefully cultivated relationships with press and foreign diplomats. Leopold's empire, however, would not last forever. By 1908, the Belgian government was forced to take control of the Congo, ending Leopold's rule. Nonetheless, exploitation continued. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. The legacy of death and destruction had left an indelible mark on the Congo, one that would linger for decades. In 2020, when a UN working group called on Belgium to apologize for the atrocities committed, the Prime Minister at the time, Charles Michel, declined but expressed regrets. The actions of Leopold II can be directly linked to the success of Belgium in the modern day, and also the underdevelopment and continued struggle of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Belgium's wealth grew significantly due to rubber and ivory extracts from the Congo, while the DRC still grapples with instability rooted in colonial exploitation. The story of Leopold II is a chilling one, but it is also a call to action. There should be retribution. We must remember the millions who suffered under his reign, and we must vow to never forget. We must hold accountable those who perpetuate systems of exploitation and ensure that history never repeats itself. We cannot change the past, but we can shape the future.